Drew, so there's been some big news. Google had their I/O kind of event slash, maybe not conference, but event, announcing some new tech changes. Obviously, ChatGPT is on everyone's mind, and they had to do something about that in terms of integrating AI into their own search engine. So big things. First of all, potentially, but wanted to have this podcast with you to talk through some of those most important topics and what it means for everybody. But what were some of your initial insights or thoughts in hearing their announcements?
Yeah, since this is not investment advice, but since I missed buying Google's IPO, I'm buying Google's 2023 IO.
Nice.
And no, it seems pretty like formative or informative and just world changing what they're working on from a search perspective, specifically adding generative AI into the search results page, kind of pushing down the traditional SERP. And we'll see how that plays out more in the future. But I definitely interesting to see like conversational mode is one thing that I took away from that, where you can kind of refine your queries and continue to learn more. And I think from a content creation perspective, that's going to be an interesting like tactic of building your own knowledge graph, I guess is a good way of putting it, around your domain specific topics. What were some of your takeaways, Ross?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how good it is at that. That's is essentially keyword research is never going to be the same, where it's like super long tail variants we can't really predict. I bet that's also good query refinement, sort of what they do now. But if you do a refinement search, they change the original data a little bit eventually if the data shows that it should show those things. But yeah, it was interesting. Some things I didn't initially catch that if you didn't catch it either, probably are worth noting that this is not going to be immediately rolled out to health and finance topics. Those are those YMYL industries. So they're probably just want to make sure they're not giving like critical information incorrectly via summarization, because that's where Google is going to experience some backlash. So they probably were predicting that in advance intelligently, and that's potentially a good thing. Probably a good thing if you're in those verticals. Probably one of the few.
Yeah, you get to see what happens to the other verticals first.
Yeah, and normally it's not a fun time to be in the health industry. From what I know, it's like the most volatile SEO space. But finally, they get something in their favor potentially that AI is not going to kind of come encroach immediately.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I noticed, or one thing that Sundar said in his keynote that I thought was an interesting nuance is like they're going to be watermarking, adding metadata, and just like overall tracking what content is generated via AI. So, something to note for people that are looking to just generate a ton of content and spam the internet. It's probably going to, or it could come back and bite you.
Yeah, it makes
What
sense.
do
I
you think
mean,
about
we'll
that?
see how accurate that is. One of the interesting rollouts from OpenAI was they have a similar tool, and it was. I remember some of the feedback on it was that it was very volatile. Like sometimes it got it right, but it was like I'm going to completely make it up, so I probably shouldn't make it up. Maybe that's like AI. That's what AI does. I'll just act confident. It was 60% of the time it's wrong.
Yeah, a little hallucination.
I'm hallucinating that
Yeah.
statistic, but it was wrong a good amount of time. So we'll see if Google is accurate, but it's a good point generally. But I do like Google's previous or refined guidance that it's fine if content is generated by AI as long as it's useful. But that in particular note from him is probably also useful for users, because I think we've realized, Drew, and talking to customers and listening to Twitter and what have you, there's a dichotomy. Some people do not want to even like look at stuff by AI, and then some people are like, "I'm all in." So the fact that it says it
Yeah.
was made by it, even if it's useful, will turn off a sector of users. That'll be interesting.
What do you think about, is the source link the new featured snippet in your mind?
The source link, the new feature. You mean those right rail 3 images that are being displayed in their new layout?
I'm pretty sure Bard and a few other tools are they have like the answer and then they have source links to where they found that information. And I'm seeing that as like if you can win those source links, it's probably your best chance of deriving traffic from those results.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of those will be so substantive, if I pronounce that correctly, in terms of actual traffic. Like, I do like those related links in their new layout. Those three to the right. They're not quite saying these are just sources. It's kind of more like you might go and actually get this for more detail, even though it is probably also a source at the same time. I don't know if it was actually annotated with um, the source in the kind of drop down in the image itself. We could look at that while we're talking, but that I think will be more indicative. But those barred type things, I mean, personally as a user, I might occasionally click into that, but I want to be betting on it for my traffic, anyways.
So Ross, what are some of the key takeaways that you're seeing for content creators and just the internet overall?
The roundups for best type queries are, I would think, alarming for affiliates. You see those, and essentially the new experience is they're pulling in their shopping data for consumer queries to essentially create a best type roundup that previously existed only on affiliate sites. So that is something at issue with a lot of that affiliate experience and traffic. If I'm a media company, I'm already probably in a bad place. I'm more concerned about the sustainability of that traffic with what they showed. It doesn't seem to be a version of that for B2B in terms of like best software, those type of queries as of yet, because they don't have a direct way to monetize that. Doesn't mean they won't get there eventually, but at least V1 it seems like if I'm an affiliate, I'd have some pause right now about that strategy of ranking for best X queries until I see more data from this. Um, I do think generally, like looking at the layout with those thumbnails to the right, it feels like a 10 to 20% impact depending on the vertical. By nature, I think diversification on query types are always smart. But as long as you're like building rich visual images there, I think that will be more compelling. Like having thumbnails that stand out and are clickable more than ever. That's going to matter. So that's a new kind of optimization. Yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts. I don't know if you're seeing anything there too. Yeah.
I guess my thinking is definitional content, what is X type posts are probably going to see a big decline, in my opinion, just because people are going to find the answer pretty quickly. Although I'm still on the side of the fence of like, yes, it's great to get a quick answer, but I like to dig in a little bit deeper. So those search results pages are still going to be viewed and consumed, in my opinion. But maybe on like to your point, 10 to 20% decline. Um, I am curious though to get your thoughts on. You mentioned the affiliate best pieces. Do you feel the same way about like roundups of different technologies, like the G2 of the world, or trying to identify like we have often bottom funnel type content comparison posts. How do you foresee those being impacted?
Yeah, I mean they won't be able to monetize that directly, potentially. So I mean they could round those up in a similar way. They actually are already doing it. So it was a recent SERP observation that we saw and shared. They had already had it present for a long time, but it seems like it's more prominent on B2B queries recently. And that, I mean, it is essentially the experience already. And did dig into that a little bit with a few of our clients that are ranking for a lot of those queries, not comparison sites, and they haven't seen much impact actually. So that was an interesting thing from that query experience. But to jump back to what you mentioned, Drew, on the what is topics, I agree on that. But I would say I would also agree what we had a conversation on prior to recording. It probably depends on like the query or query complexity. Like if I'm saying what is, I don't know, like what's something simple? Like what is a keyboard? I don't know. Like or what is Pepsi? I might just get I might get a very quick definition. That's all I need. But if I'm searching like what is inbound marketing or market, maybe a marketing automation is a good kind of explanatory. You're not only wanting that sentence, but you're probably wanting depth, right? Like maybe it is B2B queries generally that have what is refiners. I'm not that concerned because I want depth too. I don't know if that would be your experience as well.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I do want to dig a little deeper on some of those, and maybe that's where that there's reinforcement learning, human feedback type things, RLHF, of where you can dig deeper and perhaps back to my point of building a knowledge graph on your domain expertise. Like if you can be that source for that data or that information, I think that's going to be a powerful tool to like win, if win is a possible term of generative AI. If you can be the source of that model's information, I think that
Yeah,
would be crucial.
essentially aiming to be the first party for a lot of these. In some cases, they're charging the models, like Reddit is doing, to do that. But in our SEO, I think that will be the new evolution of like how SEO varies a little bit, and that we'll want to. It's not only getting a listing, but now we're going to try to inform the models, and we can definitely do that. Then
Right.
that'll be new. I think that will go along more towards like working with other publishers. I could see more non uh, competitive collaboration to get listings on like best roundups. Like you want to get on all, you always want to get on all of those, but now it's critical if you want to get number one ranking, which had most of the click through rate. Now it's the AI results. So the only way to do that is actually get listed everywhere. So that importance got even more critical. And there'll be some interesting dynamics in terms of normally you would monetize that conversation. B2B people are putting their competitors on those lists. Maybe you won't even want to put your competitor on that list now. There's some interesting dynamics that might play out, but I would think the same things would factor into what AI is going to show in Google's case of like they'll use some kind of post structure element of how many credible websites, so how many links do these sites have against this is very clearly about this topic, and some weighting engine there to then decide what they show. I'm not technical.
So are you saying if you were to feature your competitor, you're almost like feeding the engine, that it's like another mention of them, more data to back them up?
Yeah, there's an argument that you'd be doing that. But then there's the counter argument previously was you do that from a co-citation. If you're in communication apps, it'd be stupid not to show Slack and Microsoft Teams there. You're probably still like you probably wouldn't Google normally wouldn't even list your roundup, or maybe it's just a bad experience because you're not mentioning these very obvious two tools. So I'm not
Right.
saying, yeah, it's hard to say if that will keep up. I doubt deciding to leave Microsoft Teams off one time is going to stop generative AI from showing it, but we'll, we'll
Right.
we'll see how things evolve.
Yeah, and so what do you think about images and how they're gonna play a part in this? Because I think, and this is all so fresh and so new, we haven't really played around with it. We don't know what it's gonna look like yet. But it seemed like they were generating images in search, on their own, but they are also with, I believe, a Google Lens update of like the ability to truly understand what the image contains. And I think at Siege, we've had a long history of including really contextual images, like valuable images, not just stock photos and stock illustrations. So, do you have any thoughts on how images are going to play a part in the new generative AI world?
The new design looks beautiful in terms of how they're designing it, but one of the things that's interesting about like we do a lot of calculators for clients, and I think it's true with the search results, and will be true for images to a degree as well. That certain calculator design is not performative or best user experience within the context of the narrow structure of the Google search result. Like maybe it needs to be wider. Maybe you need a little graph. in the case of their images, they're generally like smaller thumbnails. If we're thinking about like a big data visualization of like a year over year graph or a complex flow chart for a certain concept that again comes up a lot in B2B, I would think that they'll probably show that image, but that will be another defensible kind of like traffic aspect. Is I doubt their SERP layout is going to best highlight that image as compared to seeing it in like full view, full column with all the detail that complex topics need. So as long as it's a complex image, that's I think a good thing for your content strategy and getting clicks. But I don't know what. Yeah, what are you thinking there, Drew?
Yeah, I tend to agree that, if you can provide a clear, like, I am seeing a lot of hallucination coming out of these models at the moment. I know they're going to improve, but like I've been asking Bard and ChatGPT to summarize some images, and it's just like it's insanely great at one moment, and then it's terribly incorrect at another. So like I asked it to summarize a data visualization, and it was just like it was like they went from 10 million to 100 million in traffic, and that was like completely inaccurate. It would be great if that was a result from our case studies, but
Not everyone, like every
um
other one is around there.
right. But it might like inform if it generates an image from the design of a client's content, and maybe it'll surface that alongside in the search query, in the search results.
Yeah, that's sort of how I'm imagining it. I don't. I yeah, they can definitely generate images. A lot of their tools and new announcements do that. I would guess they won't actually generate them in the search result themselves as compared to just the text summary. They'll mostly be text summary for accuracy, to your point of like just that risk mitigation. And I'm sure Google is like very, they already got blowback for V1 of Bard, I believe, but to roll this out and people taking those, like people are used to taking Google as facts. So if it's hallucinating something, that's like very bad for them PR wise. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like they were dipping their toes in the water and letting other people like bring out these tools before they launched their own, and then they were like quick, like let's launch Bard. It kind of went poorly, but now it seems like they're back on that product launch strategy that's done well for them. But you had a good point in before the call, and like Google's business model is to link out to other sites. So that's not going to change drastically overnight, although there are competitors that are looking like Perplexity AI is a tool that I've been playing around with that kind of reimagines the search experience. There is no like there's source links, but there's not a ton of results. It's just the answer typically. So, how do you feel about like this impact on the external links in Google search and their business model in general?
Yeah, they are so entrenched that is going to matter. Like there's going to be these niche search engines that are a little better at some things, but I just think like on a 10-year timeline, the chances that another search engine is like disruptive to them is probably unlikely. We'll see, but kind of yeah. One of my current takes is they do understand some of these tools like Perplexity. I haven't dug into that yet, so I'm excited to do that. But essentially, they can give a query answer without a search like outside links, and their business model is serving outside links. So realistically, they're never going to go all the way there, but they might go 10 to 20% further in terms of serving queries up that might not generate clicks. And that's like a healthy balance for users and for their business model. And in turn for us as SEOs and content marketers, is that realistically like a 10 to 20% hit, it's not great. But if you compare that to a lot of other business like channels, still makes SEO far more profitable than pretty much everything. So that's still bullish. Like paid social had all the Facebook privacy data wiped out. Ton of people are still doing paid social. It's like that was a massive, massive sea change, but the business didn't go away. Like all those people are still grinding it out. And so, yeah, that's my current take is like change 20% on the worst case kind of like scenario, and that's still a very healthy channel.
So yeah, that makes sense. And to your earlier point about Google, just that's their business model. They're entrenched. It's almost like I think of it like the QWERTY keyboard, where it's not ideal, but it's so ingrained in us, and like we're too deep in to get out of that uh, to create a new keyboard. But same thing for Google. I think they're gonna probably just like win long term. But these other tools are exciting and interesting to play around with. Do you have anything else to add or any takeaways from like on-site experience or how that's going to play out?
Yeah, we briefly touched on some of these, but to kind of be more clear about a few of them, it does seem that essentially thumbnail design and hero design matter more moving forward. Essentially, like if you have a compelling hero image, that's going to translate into the search result that could draw people's eye and be more clickable on average. It's not worth A/B testing yet, but I could see if this rolls out, we might even get to a point where we would want to like A/B test different like heroes to see if they draw more clicks. Then generally, as people think about AI, the more complex your answer is, the more defensible that search uh, traffic is. So I think that is just generally a way of thinking about your current strategy to defend against the future is making sure you're solving for that query, but it's a query that's a complex one that even if there is an AI answer there, the Drews, the Rosses of the world don't want to just hear what content marketing is. They would want to dive in deeper and get results from a credible source such as yourself.
It's good to remember that these models are trained on data from the past. And so one thing to think about is like it's still going to need data to refine those answers, and you could be the source of that data. And especially important as things progress in your industry to stay on top of kind of current events, updating old content to make it more relevant for today, and that will inform those models to provide the best possible answer. And then if you're sourced through that, that can be a consistent source of organic traffic to your site.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Being a first party is never more important, and there's different ways you could do that. Like we talk about data today. If you're on the statistics post, you better have first party statistics on there, or you could get wiped out hypothetically from a traffic standpoint. And um, yeah, being a HubSpot popularized inbound marketing, I bet they're getting referenced all the time because they're essentially the first party for that concept. So
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't know how links are going to play a part in the new age of generative AI. Maybe that's too much to chew off today,
I think
but
I mean, I think that informs that kind of like we're trying to inform AI of what they say. I would guess Google will use their own popularity engine to inform that of like, I'm going to trust the top 6 websites and links are a part of that conversation. So we're going to want to build something that Google relies on as a trustworthy source, and links would be part of that engine. So I think that, if anything, might even like get more important in this kind of world. We'll see.
yeah, that's a good point, because one thing that I took away from, it's not related to search, but from the IO, one of the keynote presentations about shopping experience. I guess it is search related because it's e-commerce. They said that 1.8 billion social graph or product graph data points are coming in every hour. So, and that's informing which, like, it's taking in reviews and new products and all of that into their model. So I think that's going to be a similar path for links, kind of like you said, just forming that popularity graph.
For sure.
So I think to wrap it up, ultimately, the if you can provide uh, the content, the quench for knowledge, or a product or service for the end user, your content is safe. I don't know about SEO as a function, just because the acronym may change. I actually had an idea of how we could change it. I'm thinking search intelligent engine generative enhancement, or Siege for short.
Nice.
Sorry, SEOs of the world. You're now Siege.
And we're out.